Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Max and Yo-Yo. Today we're going to be continuing a conversation we started in the last episode. And if you haven't watched the last episode, we encourage you to please go back and, watch it. But today we're going to be talking on dating to marry. I know we had briefly touched on it last time, so we're going to be continuing that conversation. And we have Samuel returning back with us today again. So I'm going to hand over the mic to Yo-Yo to do a little bit of introductions, and yeah, we can take it up from there. Okay, let's go.
Hi, 30 Plus Community Clique. And so, just in case you did not watch our previous podcast, we have our guest here today. His name is Samuel, and he has so much wisdom and so much experience. Not so much, but he's been able to reflect on his experiences, and so that gives him an advantage to be more wiser in all he does. And so today we're talking about dating to marry, and so it's going to be conversational. I want to hear all the sides, right? So I'm coming from the married perspective, and we have Samuel coming from the representing the male gender, and we have Max representing the female gender. And so at the end of the day, just, if you're married, pick something. If you're single, pick something. If you're in a relationship, pick something. If you're a man, pick something. And at the end of the day, you would have a banquet full of wisdom and insight. And so, dating to marry. I don't want to start with myself. So please, since I have the mic, allow me to pass it on. Okay. And so, dating to marry, when you talk about dating to marry, Max, what comes to your mind about that?
I think that it's a bit of intentionality. I think that that's something that we need to, like, you get to a point in your life that you get a little bit more intentional. But I'm going to be a little bit controversial here in terms of like, I think that term dating to marry naturally only applies to men, in my opinion, or to to well, let me just put it, because I don't want to be a little bit of a generalist. I think that dating to marry, to a large extent, I think that's a little bit more fair, to a large extent applies to men. Because from a woman's perspective, knowing fully well that every time that you venture into a dating relationship, you could end up being saddled with a kid and end up being having to like share your life with somebody, whether that be your, as in a marital situation, whether you wanted it to be or not, as the case may have been for a lot of people who are now married, or whether that be in a baby mama, baby papa situation, as is now the current trend. I think women are a little bit more should, I would hope, at the very least. But I think that from my perspective, that women are a little, that term doesn't necessarily apply to women, because you have to make this decision. This person could impregnate you, and what are you taking out of this? So I think that that is a luxury that men tend to, and I'm going to piggyback off to something you said, you know, in the last episode, Samuel, when you talked about, initially your first dating experience was, oh, she's cute, I date. Many women don't think that way, from the get-go, where you're thinking, okay, is he the kind of man I want to spend the rest of my life? Because again, that's how we're groomed, right? Is he the kind of man I want to spend the rest of my life with? Does he have the qualities? And then as you progress further, when you start to express yourself, some of the qualities, some of the things that you may have been looking for, again, from a woman's perspective, it is never have been he's cute, I date, even people that will tell you, oh, I am sexually expressive, please stop. To some degree, there's still that level of, you do your a little bit of vetting, because there's a level of nurture that has been put in place that allows you to think a certain kind of way. But as you come to your own and get to know yourself better, the older you get, you start to think, okay, maybe this is what I want in a man. Maybe this is what society has told me a man should be like, or maybe this is what, after all my dating experiences, I have now come to learn that XYZ is what fits me best. I think that makes sense from a woman's perspective, but I don't really think that this term naturally, if we're being truly honest with ourselves, applies to women. And I know that this is not where we wanted to take the conversation to, but this is where I took it to anyway. So my bad. So
Uh, Um, if I may just jump in here. I agree with you to a very large extent. I think women are raised to women are raised to be mothers and wives right from the beginning, and men aren't most times. Men are just raised to be men. Just do you, you know? But women, you hear, is that how you're going to cook in your husband's house from like maybe 10 or something? And men, you never hear, oh, is that how you're going to treat your wife? So maybe definitely women sort of grow up with that ideology. But I think at some point still, it's dating to marry still applies to women, to be honest, because there's a certain age everyone gets to, and it's like I can't play around anymore. I don't like to put a time frame on a lot of things because I know that life is not there isn't a manual for life, or there isn't a time when you must do something. But there is something called a biological clock, and we can all acknowledge it. And I feel like men have it too. Men, a lot of men might act like, oh yeah, it's fine, even if I'm in my 50s, it's fine. But the truth is, the energy you have in your 50s is not the same as your 30s. In fact, the energy you have in your 20s is not the same as your 30s. So there is a biological clock for everyone. And I feel like once you start getting conscious of that biological clock, you start subconsciously on subconsciously starts going into that zone of being intentional with who you date. And I think that's where the dating to marry stage start from. When you get into that phase, you're now very conscious of who, who you are spending your time with, regardless of whether you're um regardless, even if you have a kid and you're a single mother or you're a single father, it's still the same thing. At that point, you're being more intentional with who you date, and you're dating for a future. You're not just dating just and I know women probably definitely always date for a future, but I think it's more intense at a certain age where you are more intentional. I think it's the intentionality that qualifies that phrase of dating to marry. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good perspective from both Max and Samuel. However, looking back now, just to share a little bit of my story. So I cannot really remember if I was very intentional with relationship, and but what I can remember is I think I was into the relationship with, oh, I want to please this person, right? And so, oh, how will I make this person feel happy? How will I make this person feel engaged? How will I make this person feel interested? And so there's that, I don't think it's subtle pressure, but just going all out of your way just all about the person. And that is also one thing making me to say that dating is a journey, relationship is a journey, and marriage or getting married is also a journey. And so at the point where I realized that, okay, I think it's all of them, I think it's enough of pleasing this person and it's now me. Then with that me perspective, when I entered into another relationship, the spotlight was on me. The spotlight was who am I, right? And so when we have issues, how do I respond to it? When we talk about stuff, how do I engage in the conversation? So it was not just all about pleasing this person. It was all about more like a self-awareness journey, more like a me journey. How will it fit into my goal? How will it fit into my perspective in life? And how are we going to meet? Can we meet? Are we compatible? And so those many common stories like we always know. And so in the dating journey, there would also be where it will be a flip. Sometimes you might get into that journey with a certain reason or certain perspective. But if you're lucky enough to progress in that journey and you find that flip, it's also very important that that flip should be on you and not on that person. So that way you can really have a balanced side of the dating journey. Yeah. So that's,
I think
I
I'm a
see.
bit of a contrarian today.
What did you say?
I woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
What did you say?
I think I'm a bit of a contrarian today. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Oh my God,
Nice.
I have thoughts.
I, I I have
Okay.
a question for you, Yo-Yo.
Okay.
So I mean, when you started dating your current husband before you guys got married, did
Okay.
you did you um w- did you feel like you were going to marry, or were you in a space where it was um I want to marry this person that I date, or was it just let me get to know this person?
Okay, that's a very good question. And so I come from a deeper life background, and if you don't know the church deeper life, and so there is little or no room for
For
relationship.
dating?
Yeah, there's
Hmm.
really or no little or no room for dating. And so it is, I want to marry you. Do you want to marry me? And so you have the room to make that decision. And unfortunately, you don't have that room, that flexibility to know who this person really is, right? Before you make that decision. So you kind of rely on one source. So they will say, go and pray, right? If you pray, you're able to pray through and you understand that this is okay, I have peace in this journey. I want to I want to say yes, but saying yes does not mean that you're going to marry this person. Saying yes from the church perspective gives you the right to understand this person and gives you the right to talk about some deep conversation and have this deep conversation. If at the end of 6 months you feel that okay, I think I'm comfortable with this person, then they would ask you to go ahead, or you can say, oh no, I'm not going forth with this, or I'm pulling out, or I need more time, or I'm ready. And so when he came to propose to me and I want to marry you, then I was already in another relationship. And I was, I'm a Lagos baby, right? So I wanted more flowers, more yummy stuff. But he's so direct. He was a zonal leader, and he was like, "I want to marry you." I was like, just like that. And so I was like, okay. The usual sentence is, "Let me go and pray." And so, actually, to be sincere, I went to actually pray. But however, I went to pray with the mindset that God should say no. Okay. And so that
Mm,
was the reason why I went to pray, not because I wanted a yes from God. And so, should I say, yeah, fortunately, I went to pray. That was the first quickest answer I got. And when you know that God spoke to you, right? And I heard, go, I am with you. And at that point, I was like, no, this is not what I heard, I want to hear. I just stood up. I did not even round up the prayer, like, thank you, Jesus. No, I just stood up and I left. But I knew that the Holy Spirit said, go, I am with you. But I have my human part. I wanted, more conversation. I wanted that interaction. I wanted all the many good things, but I didn't get it. Fortunately, I did not move on. I kind of ended I said, okay, yeah, okay, yes, let's have a conversation and see how it will turn out to. But after some time, we're like, I'm not feeling these vibes. There's no love. You're not wooing me enough. Woo me some more. But
mhm.
it's not from that side. And so that really, from my own hand, really, I was not vibing enough. And so I was like, what, give me some time. I took that time off, right? And, when you are in a relationship and you're comparing, oh, this person is not like this one, this person is not like this one. That was my journey. I was comparing two people. I wanted this person to behave like this. And so the strength of this person, I wanted it to be the strength of this person. Then the weakness of this person, I didn't want this weakness. Do you understand what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I was like, no. I did that for a couple of months. And at the end of the day, I was like, no, they're different people. And I have to see them in different light. Unfortunately, I still could not see them in different light. However, I decided to pull my trigger. The trigger I pulled was my litmus test. I started testing for my values. And so this gave me enough time to know who I am and what I really want in life, and exposed me to my own strength and my weaknesses and my personality. And so based on the values and the qualities I wanted in a man, I started doing the tests. So I tested for so many important things I wanted. And at the end of the day, I realized that the person I am with now that I'm married to has those values, has those qualities. And so without knowing, I was testing him, and with recurring episodes of those tests, it was very consistent. And the truth is, the qualities I wanted then before I got married are still the same qualities I still want now. like 10 years after, they're still very important to me. And so at that point, then back then, when I confirmed the test, one of them passed so well and the other did not pass. I was like, you know what? Well, I can't feel the butterflies in my tummy, but the values are real. So I would go ahead. I have the voice of God saying, yes, is with me. The values are real, but the only thing that is lacking is the butterflies. And so I would go ahead with this and we would make it work. And so, did I answer your question, Samuel?
I think
Yes, go ahead,
to some,
Max.
I think to some degree, I'm going to say something, then I'm going to piggyback, backtrack a little bit. So in terms of butterflies, and I heard it somewhere that butterflies in the stomach is actually a psychological response to past traumas. It shows you
Mm.
that the person you're meeting is familiar to you. So usually and I've read this somewhere, I can't remember where now, but like usually the theory that was being propounded at the time was that, when people are familiar with something, oh, it gives you that gushy feeling. But if you check those butterfly stages, it never lasts. It ends up going back to the same situation that you are probably already used to. That has also not worked. So it also spoke very, very strongly to the theory of only a madman will do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So I'm saying this to say probably the absence of butterflies was a good thing. So in your case. But I also wanted to circle back to when you started talking initially about, intentionality. I know that we've always spoke about intentionality from a good point of view, and that is great because we're a positive channel. And like I said earlier, I'm a contrarian today. But I also wanted to show us that there is a possibility of having negative intentionality in terms of dating to marry. There comes a time in people's life when people are also like getting to the point where they're like, I want to get married. This is what I want. This is their desire. So it is quite common, the ability for people to hide a bit of themselves, to present what they think a person might want to see. And this is not my advice to you. I will always, always, always advise, please be honest, please be upfront. You know, be 100% of yourself. If the person likes you, they like you. If they don't like you, they don't like you. And I say this to say, because I would never forget the story or this statement that a former colleague of mine made, and it just registered with me forever. Because he said, and I remember one time, he was quite advising us about marriage and relationships and stuff like that. And then I asked him, I said, why did you marry the lady that you're now married to? And he looked at me and smiled and was like, I thought, this is his quote, I'm quoting directly now. He said, I thought I was getting married to a kitten. She was meek, she was mild, she was humble. I had no idea that I was getting married to a lion.
uh,
Oh, so he was like, so immediately after the marriage, like all was done, the papers were signed. When I got into it, that was when I knew that the meek, mild, and humble, woman that I thought that I was getting married to was actually a ferocious cat. So I just wanted to I know we've always spoken about intentionality. So this is my point of the reason why I bring this up is to say, even though you've come to the point of like you're intentional, you want to get married, you want to be with somebody, 100% of yourself is always the best. If the person doesn't like you for you, that's fine. There's always going to be someone who will, rock with your freak, so you don't have to be anything other than who you are, to attract the best person for yourself. That's what I wanted to say too.
yeah, and I actually agree with that because I feel like from a book I was reading, it was saying that one of the reasons why people struggle a lot in their marriages is because they had an expectation or they were given an expectation, and then when they got into the marriage, everything changed, or some of those things, the expectations they were given were not met, or they changed, and it's not like I don't know who I got married to. So I guess it's like a case of marrying a kitten and then finding out that she's a lion from from the den of Nebuchadnezzar. So so yeah.
Well,
Oh,
so also just to piggy on what Samuel has said, people evolve. And
True.
one thing I always like to tell people was one thing that helped me in my marriage was because I intentionally took out all form of expectation. That is a very difficult task,
Mm.
not to expect anything. Because when there are expectations, one thing I've realized that most people don't know how to communicate their expectations. And they also believe they want to think that their partner is the Holy Spirit that knows what they want in their heart and how they want it. And then that's where issues begin to, show itself forth. And so it was very hard for me, but I removed all form of expectations. I had a very blank mind on the day I said I do. And looking back, that really helped me. So there was no surprise because nothing, I didn't expect anything. And so that helped me to communicate better. And that also helped me to talk about everything in a very decent way, knowing that the other person has a feelings as well. And so it's just a journey, and it'll be good if we can reflect on everything that happens. And that way we give ourselves the feedback and we have an open mind to learn, and then we can make this dating to marriage work. Otherwise, it becomes another circle again.
I
Are you
think
not relieved? Are you not relieved that you're not dating in this right now? Like you're not dating in this generation, like I mean, like right now, like the dating pool right now. I
When
hear a lot of it's
you know
muddy.
I was going to ask you, Samuel, actually, because I'm very ready for Yo-Yo, but I was going to ask you, Samuel, like, I know, because you mentioned in the last episode that you're currently dating to marry, and I know we've talked about the different angles about dating to marry, but I'm like, my good sir, do you want to take the mic, speak to the class? What has it been like on the streets?
Well, I think I can't relate to people's experience of muddy waters because I feel like personally I've dated very good women. I ruined most of those with myself, so I'll take responsibility for that. But currently, let me say in the last 2 years, I realized that most of the women I met who were around my age were either single mothers. I started meeting a lot of single mothers, and I was like, "Ah, is this what it feels like to be?" It's not like I have a problem with single mothers. No, it's just it, it's just different. It feels like there's a level of maturity you need to attain to be able to deal with someone who's a single mother because they have a child, and if you're dating that person, you're somewhat in their child's life as well. So if you've never been in that kind of situation, it might be complex. And so I'll raise my hand and say it's a little bit complex for me. So that's what's one thing I've seen that. Oh, I started meeting a lot of women that were single mothers, and I was just like, what happened? What changed? But I guess again they're around my age bracket. But when I go to like mid twenties, I meet a lot of women who are yes, they're not mothers, they're chasing a career or doing one thing or the other. But then the problem though is expectations. They have an expectation that social media has built where they want a certain type of life or they want everything to be a certain type of way. They are not looking at life from the lens of reality. So reality of, okay, who is this person? Who is this person I'm talking to? How does this person operate? How do they think? They're not looking at things from that perspective. They're looking at it from, oh, this is how it should be. It's more of an ideology. They have an ideology of what they want. And they if you're unable to provide that, there isn't a room for, oh, okay, let me pause and try to understand this person. Why do you see life like this? Why do you think this way? You know, at least if you take that pause and you understand why this person thinks a certain type of way or why they have these values or why they view life from this lens, maybe you can resonate with it and be like, okay, you know what, this is something I can deal with. Well, if you don't and you already have an ideology in your head and it's like you're living a fairy tale life. You're looking for Prince Charming. And I think this applies to men too, but I'm speaking from my relationship with women. So it's like a lot of them are looking for Prince Charming based off of a wish list that they've built on Amazon or Temu or something. In this case, Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. And it's like, no, that's not how life is. Like, there are maybe 4 billion men in the world. We are all different people, man. We are not going to give you the same thing. You just have to see meet this person and try to understand them and see if it works, if they give you things that you want. Like my mom would always tell me, if you find a woman who has 80% of everything you want, then you're a very lucky man. That's what she tells me. So I think that's been my experience with dating. It's been meeting one person or the other who has one expectations or the other. And I'm in a relationship right now though, so um it's going good. We have our issues sometimes, but I would say overall it's not bad. It's going good so far. Hopefully it's fingers crossed
Final bus stop.
to be the last bus stop, hopefully.
That's nice. And I also believe that the opportunity to date a lot of people has added value to you and has also and is also helping you in your current relationship. And so I want to talk to our 30 plus cliques that are single, either the male gender or the female gender. Open up to relationship, open up to friendship. And as you open up to relationship and friendship, remember to talk to yourself. Remember to give yourself the feedback. Remember to use every experience as a learning curve for you. That's where you add value to yourself. And so it's been a wonderful episode today, very conversational. We talked about dating to marry, and we want to make these another episode where we'll bring another person to see their perspective. And so stay tuned and watch out for our next series. So thank you for liking our videos. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for subscribing. And thank you for sharing. And thank you, Samuel, for making it another time with us today.